This is The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Whether you're a seasoned real estate expert, a first-time home buyer, or if you're simply passionate about hearing small business stories, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we dive deep into the world of real estate and beyond.
Today's sponsor is Stacy Williams with Bright Mortgage. Stacy is the best lender in all of Arizona. Reach out to Stacy for all your lending needs. He is the best at finding you not only the best rate, the best loan program, but he also provides the best service. Welcome to episode 47 of The Real Deal. I am your host, Janine Igliani, with my co-host, Ryan Hatcher.
What's up, guys?
And our guest today is Brady Mitchell with Chip Cookies here in Gilbert, Arizona. Welcome.
Hi guys, nice to be here.
Thanks for being here. So we'd love to start at the very beginning, Brady. We want to know who you are and kind of where you came from and how you came to be here in Arizona and really how you started Chip Cookies.
Okay, perfect. So we have been in Arizona for about 15 years now. We came originally from Utah through Colorado. And so my day job, I guess you could say, brought us here. So I work in the tech industry.
Okay.
I've been doing that for 15, 16 years now.
You still do?
Yep.
Okay.
So I still do that during the day. And then my wife and I run Chip as kind of a side hustle.
So,
right?
so you can build a business working full-time doing something else?
Absolutely. I mean, it takes a lot,
Oh,
right?
I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
it's something that we've kind of an itch we wanted to scratch for a really long time, right? We got to the point, at least I should say I got to the point in my day job where, we really wanted to find something new to do, right? But the market is what it is, right? The labor market, the employment market right now. And we found this opportunity with Chip, who's been around for a really long time, right? Chip started in 2016.
Oh,
it was
did
kind
they?
of the first gourmet cookie company
In Utah?
that was out there. Yeah.
Okay.
It came before all of these other ones that you hear about all
Really?
the time, right?
Right.
This was the OG, huh?
This absolutely the
Wow.
OG. And so they just kept it as kind of a family business for years and years. They had their corporate stores that were doing really well, and that's kind of where they kept it for a long time. And then eventually they decided that they wanted to expand out and started to do some franchising kind of opportunities. And as soon as we heard that, we jumped on it.
Oh,
because, we've loved the product forever. It's the best product that there is. And so as soon as we found out, we were ready to go.
Okay. So are you one of their first franchises?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
interesting. Okay.
Yep.
And
So first in Arizona and one of the first full stop.
And they started in Utah?
Yeah, so the founders of the company, Sean and Sarah, they were living in LA at the time that they started all this, and they were pregnant with their first kid, and Sarah just had these intense cravings for cookies during her pregnancy, right?
I relate, and I'm never pregnant.
Yeah, right. And so they, instead of just buying a bunch of cookies, they had that kind of entrepreneurial itch and started coming up with a business plan. And they thought, what better place to kick it off than Provo, Utah?
Okay.
Right? And so from LA, they actually launched it in Utah, and it just took
Exploded.
off like crazy. Yeah. They started with just one cookie, the OG. So all they sold was a box of 4 OG cookies.
Chocolate chip.
Yep.
Okay.
And 2 bottles of milk.
Oh, interesting.
If you wanted something, that was what
you
got.
gotta have milk.
Well, and you know what? There's so much in keeping it simple, right? Our company is founded by Gary Keller, and one of the things he actually wrote a book called The One Thing, and he talks about that in business and how there's a lot of power in just doing the one thing and not like overwhelming the market with so many options. Anyway, so I kind of love that.
Yeah. And that's one of our kind of tentpole things that we do, right? We don't have a huge menu of cookies that changes out 20 flavors every week, right? Because it's kind of impossible to do that really well with that much change.
Yeah.
And so we have a staple of cookies that we have all the time, right? And then we have one cookie that changes every week.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So it's a kind of a cookie of the week idea.
Yeah, because I've gone to other cookie companies, and my favorite one is the sugar cookie, and sometimes it's not available, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So that's good. So I feel like we need to show these at some point here, so we might as well.
Let's
So
do
this is the box, And then we got to see. Look at that.
So delicious. Those look so good.
So what kinds do we have here, just so we know?
So in the top left, we got the OG, which is a milk chocolate chip cookie.
Okay.
Right. The top right is our Biscoff with white chocolate chips and melted Biscoff cookie butter in the center. The bottom right is what we call the SW, which is kind of the namesake of Sean and Sarah Wilson,
that's cool.
the founders of the company. So
I love that.
Everyone calls it the Southwest because we're here in
Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, that's fine.
Sure.
But
that must be their favorite one then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's semi-sweet chocolate, but it's not chocolate chips. You can see they're kind of discs or wafers, so it's a little bit more ooey gooey, chocolatey, finished with some sea salt, and then a sugar cookie.
Nice.
Okay.
Those look yummy.
Yeah.
They are yummy. I've had them. So I've had your cookies before. So we want to talk about, it's great to have the idea, right? And that's one step, but how did you go about selecting your location and just working out all those details? What did that process look like?
Boy, it was a crazy process. It took us about, from the time that we had our first conversation with Chip to opening our doors was about a year and a half.
Okay.
Right. And the vast majority of that time was spent in real estate selection, right? Because there's not a ton of it available, right? What is available in some places, like we talked to some people that were charging like just ridiculous prices, right? For
rent.
And long leases and
Exactly. And so it took us a long time to find a spot that kind of hit everything we wanted, right? In terms of being able to draw in traffic, in terms of affordability, in terms of location, right? And so when we found our spot, that's when things really kicked off and we got into construction and
so you had to build it out.
Yep.
So it was just empty.
It was a brand new unit. It had never had anything in it.
Yeah.
So
are you able to share kind of what that looked like, that build out process? Was it, who designed it? Did you just take what they've done in Utah or in LA and put it here?
Yeah. So there's a design language, right, for all chip cookies, right? Because they want the experience and the look to be similar no matter where you go, right? And so there was basically a design packet, right, that had a bunch of different options of things that like, this fits here and this fits here. And then we worked with an awesome architect that helped us design everything.
Put it together.
Because our shop is, in terms of all of the other like chip cookies and similar concepts, is incredibly small.
Is it?
We packed a lot of stuff into a really
how many
small
square
space.
feet do you have?
About 750.
Okay.
Wow. So there's not a lot of room to sit around.
No, there is not.
Okay.
Normally you're looking like 1,200 square feet. So we're like 60% of the size of a normal kind of shop of that concept.
Yeah. But you're in a really good location.
We're in a great location.
And that's huge.
Yep.
Yes. Speaking of, let's share where your location is. You're right off of Williamsfield.
Right off of Williamsfield. 1805 East Williamsfield is the address. We're right behind the Trader Joe's that sits out on the road, and then we're right next to the big urban air adventure park.
Yep.
That's right there.
Yeah.
Which is nice and handy.
Yeah.
When you, how long did that build out take?
So the build out took about 7 months, which isn't terrible when you're going from an empty shell to fully built out. It's interesting. We actually had another one of the chip franchisees in California general contracted the space for us, and so that was really nice because he kind of knew. He was going through the same stuff, right?
Oh, perfect.
What goes where? How do we fit everything? What the equipment is?
Perfect. Yeah.
That's cool.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys bake on location?
We do.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So you actually mix and bake and all of that. How did you go about getting the word out? The marketing. What did that marketing look like from the very beginning to get the word out?
So we focused a ton on the very, very local area, right? We started it within 1 mile of the store and kind of proceeded out to about 3 miles around the store. There was a ton of flyering. We did a lot of mailers. We did a lot of social media through through the corporate social media stuff to get the word out. And then the biggest thing that we did was the day of, we just had people everywhere in that area, right? Santan Village area is crazy, right? So we had tons of kids with signs. So that opening night, we gave free cookies to anyone who came in.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
Right?
And I wish I had known about that.
Yeah. So we just had kids all over the place. Like, hey, you want a free cookie? Come on down. You know, the urban area, the Trader Joe's down further by the mall, by the Shake Shack, right? Like, and we just had a fantastic grand opening. I think more than anything, just having those people out there just drew people in, right? Because who's gonna turn down a free cookie?
Yeah,
right?
oh my gosh. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Did you have really good traffic?
We did. We had a pretty incredible grand opening. We had at the time it was the biggest grand opening that Chip had.
Oh wow!
For their franchises. We've since been passed up. There's a store in the Bay Area that's doing really well. They passed us by, but that's okay.
You can take it back.
A rising tide lifts all boats,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
So
were some of those marketing ideas yours, or did those come from the headquarters of here's what we would suggest you do?
It was a mix. So they had some things that are like, okay, these are some things that you have to do, right? Like kind of, we know these work well, do these, and then anything above that we wanted to do, we were able to do.
Awesome.
So one of the great advantages of going the franchise route is you have a lot of things set in place, systems and processes and standards that you just basically come in and you take over. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel? But there's a cost that comes with that too, right? So you've got franchise fees, you've got royalties that you pay, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
So can you share a little bit about that? Like, what's the initial investment look like for something like that?
So for Chip, initial investment, so they they require that you have, I think it's, and these might not be exact, but they're ballpark,
some sort of liquid capital.
You have to have, I think, like $200,000 available in liquid capital and a net worth of either $500,000 or $750,000, right?
Okay.
I think are their like requirements to get into it. Overall investment is, depending on where you're at and what kind of build out you need and all that kind of stuff, usually looking like between $400,000 and $600,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so do most franchisees in Chip, do they go get a small business loan for this type of thing? I mean, how's that work normally?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how most of them did it, right? I think that's pretty common, but a lot of them, in our case, we did a mixture of a lot of things, right? We used some of our investments to fund it. We did a small loan to help fund it, right? So we kind of dipped into a few different buckets.
And I guess you could always take on partners too if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced with starting a new business? How long have you been in business now? Like a year?
No, not quite. So we've been open for about 5 months now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? So we're still pretty new, still trying to get the word out, right? So come on down.
Yeah, hopefully we can help with that.
Oh, we will, for sure.
And so basically so the biggest challenge for us, right? It might not be specific to a lot of other people. It depends on the industry you're in and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of kind of cookie concepts out there, right?
Yeah.
There's one or two, especially in the East Valley.
Yes.
Right. And so just getting people to come in and try the cookies and know that, it's different than what you get anywhere else.
And so that's what I was going to ask. How do you differentiate yourself as a company amongst a sea of other types of similar setups with cookies?
Yeah.
What do you do?
So the first thing is in terms of our ingredients and the simplicity of our ingredients. It's really funny. We had a customer come in the other day and she was kind of deciding like, oh, do I want to try some? Her daughter came in and her daughter was getting cookies, right? And the mom's like, I don't know if I want to try some or not. She's like, what kind of oils do you use in your cookie and stuff like that? It's like, no, we don't use any oils.
Interesting.
Right? Like most of our cookies, the ingredient list is like
so it's butter.
4 or 5 items.
I love that.
Right? Like it's simple stuff done really, really well and served fresh and warm and
I love that.
and great.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
and
great.
then the other really cool thing that kind of sets us apart from others and where we kind of catch up on the, you have tons of different flavors rotating through, right, is we have what we call the cookie bar, right? Where you can come in and you can take any of our kind of base cookies and you can top them or decorate them, drizzle them, infuse them, tons of different toppings, however you want for like an extra $1 a cookie.
So I order them, get the box, and then I can go through, or you guys do it?
We do it for you, but you kind of tell us
what you want on them.
What you want on it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Think kind of Cold Stone for cookies, right? So it's behind the wall, so, you know, health, food safety, right? We don't want customers dipping into your food.
Yes.
It's not like a buffet.
Yeah, exactly. It's controlled by us, so we make them look really nice and beautiful. And we let you kind of go nuts.
I love it.
But it's also a lot for some people, right? It can be overwhelming for some people, all the choices. So we also have a couple menus of like pre-created cookie bar options for people to choose from.
And they have names?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So we have like an Oreo Dunk. We have a Choco Nut. We have a Choco Mallow, which is a cocoa cookie with marshmallow and chocolate drizzle. Right. My favorite creation that we do, full stop, is an OG cookie, which is a milk chocolate chip cookie with a milk chocolate drizzle, a peanut butter drizzle, and then crushed Reese's peanut butter cups on top.
Oh my gosh,
my husband would love that.
It's so good. It's my favorite thing.
Good.
Yeah. So so how do you not gain tons and tons of weight doing this? Like that would be one of my biggest problems working there. Because we both have crazy sweet tooths.
I love sweets.
So I'm lucky in that I don't have a crazy sweet tooth.
Okay.
Right? So it fits pretty nice. But at the beginning, it was a bigger problem.
Was it?
Than it is now.
Well, you got to try them. You got to know what they taste like.
So luckily, we have some kids that do some good taste testing for us.
Okay.
And friends and family and all that kind of stuff, right? But it's, for us, one thing that we haven't done up until now is we've always been closed on Sundays. Starting this Sunday, we're opening on Sundays.
Oh, so that's something that'll set you apart.
Which is going to be great because there's not a lot of places open on Sundays in this area.
Totally.
Right? But before, so one thing that we do is we sell day-old cookies at almost half price of a fresh cookie, right? And they always sell out and they do really, really great. And so that gives you a reason at the end of the night that you don't, just eat a bunch of cookies.
You're like, wait.
We'll just save them and sell them for the next day.
I've always wondered that. What do you do with the cookies that are left over? You sell them?
Yep.
Okay.
So we sell them on the rare event that we have cookies. So like on a Saturday night before now, right? We didn't have anything to do with them, right? And so we would definitely box up some cookies and bring home, and that was a Sunday treat for the family, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, we would take them to a local hospital,
I love
police
that.
station, fire station,
I love that. That's
place
awesome.
like that to give them a little treat.
I love that.
I don't know if they still do it, but back in the day, Panera would take all their bread and put it in a big bag, and they would take it and donate it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I remember churches would get them, and you could just go in and pick out bread, which was super cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Brady, you mentioned your family. And something for us that's really important in our business, our family is really a big part of our business. Can you talk about, is your family involved and how do they support you?
Yeah, 100%. My wife, Stephanie, is incredible. She basically manages the shop day to day. She's there more than I am, right? Because I still have my day job. So, she's there right now cranking out cookies and looking for catering orders, which is something else that we do, right? And so she and I work closely together to run the business. And then our kids, we have 4 kids, and they're all a little bit too small to do active work in the shop.
How old's your oldest?
My oldest just turned 15, so she's getting close.
Okay.
As soon as she gets her license and can kind of come and go as we need her to be able to, right? Yeah. She'll definitely be signed up for some shifts.
That's actually one of my favorite parts about it for you is just having your kids learn how to work and run a business. That's so cool.
Yeah, the thing, it's really funny. My wife and I were challenged at a certain point because we'd gotten pretty comfortable in our lives, right? Like things were going fine, good job, good family, everything was really good, right? And then someone challenged us to not get comfortable, right? Find something hard to do together. And it was after we had already started looking into this stuff, right? And so all these things just kind of started popping up to like reinforce like, hey, this is a good idea. This is something that we should be doing, right? Yeah. And I think to your point, it's really cool to be able to show our kids that it's good to do hard things, right? It's good to challenge yourself. It's good to sometimes fail, right? Like things haven't gone absolutely perfectly since we started. No business out there does. I'm sure you guys saw that in, the 11 years that you guys have been doing this, right? There's bumps along the road, but to be able to show ourselves and show our kids that you can overcome that, right? And you can keep pushing, and little setbacks don't mean the end, right? Has been probably the most valuable thing that's come out of this for us.
I love that. That's a great story and a great example. And something that we really preach to our kids as well and to others is just like being able to persevere through hard times and say, what can I learn from this? How can I be better? Those are such valuable lessons. And setbacks don't have to mean the end. I love that you said that. Yeah. What were you going to say, Ryan?
Well, I was just thinking, so your biggest challenge right now is what? Is it competition? What is it?
Our biggest challenge, so we have a great location from a lot of aspects, right? But the one thing that we don't get is just like, we're not in a strip mall. We're not around a lot of other food establishments. So there's not a ton of foot traffic, right? So our biggest challenge right now is getting people in the doors, right? Once people come in, they love it. We have 5-star reviews coming from everywhere you could imagine, right? But it's just getting people to find us, to come in, to make that trip or order online, right? And then be able to come back and be those repeat customers, right? We get a ton of people that shop with us once, almost always come back and keep shopping and telling their friends and all that kind of stuff, which is part of the reason why we've dove so hard into social media, right? It's just to help get that word out there. Hey, we're here, we're great, come and try us.
What are some things you're doing on social media? How are you getting the word out?
So we're doing a ton of giveaways. So every week we have a big giveaway that is either a big box of cookies or a couple weeks ago, I know we were talking about this before we started recording, we just recently started doing ice cream sandwiches.
Yes.
So we did a big ice cream sandwich giveaway.
Nice.
And, putting some ad dollars behind that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you want to see what those look like, check them out on Instagram. What's your handle?
chipcookies.gilbertaz.
Okay. Yeah. So you just scroll down and you see this massive ice cream sandwich cookie.
I love it.
It's crazy.
They're delicious. We do ice cream sandwich. We also do what we call chipzookies, which is a cookie with just some ice cream piled on top of it, right? Okay. Really, really good.
Okay. I saw your hashtag on this. Chip happens. I like it.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the hallmark ideas of the brand, right? Is, again, going back to this theme of like, you know what, sometimes stuff happens, right? But you've got to persevere, you got to keep going and make it happen.
Yeah.
Right?
So what have you learned? Like, what is the most important thing you've learned, you would say, in this process, 5 months into this now? In a year and a half from that first conversation?
I think, oh man, that's a really tricky question. The one,
or maybe some just key
big things that we've learned.
Yeah.
Hire great people, right? Which we've been really lucky to be able to do. And then I think it's a focus on never letting that quality drop.
Yes.
Right? Like, you can't ever give someone a bad experience, because people always hesitate, and I think this is true in everything we do in life, right? People always hesitate to tell you when you've done something well, right? Because that's just kind of the expectation, right? You, especially in a food service industry, you go in, you expect to have good food served well, like that's just like the expectation.
Correct.
Right? So of course I'm not gonna like take you aside and be like, hey, you did a really good job.
Right, you met my expectations.
What I thought was good, right? And even if you go above and beyond, a lot of times people don't tend to shout from the rooftops when something like that happens. But if you do something wrong, right? And luckily we really haven't had many of these, but they're very quick to point that out, right? As they should be, right? Anytime that does happen, we appreciate it because we always want to get better. And there are always blind spots that you have, especially when something is new.
So what's a mistake?
Okay, so I'll tell you one we had just recently.
Yeah.
That was just devastating to us. Okay, so we had an issue with one of we do in-house deliveries through our app and through our website, but we also use third-party delivery services, right? And we're not going to name names.
Sure.
But one of those third-party delivery companies that we work with had some back-end troubles with our shop, okay? And so they were sending us orders and customers were placing orders that we were not getting. Right? And so that caused a little bit of disappointment for some customers, right? As you can imagine.
They're expecting these cookies to show up and they don't show up.
They were getting cookies. And it wasn't like, because sometimes you'll make an order and something will happen and the order will get canceled and it lets the customer know like, hey, something happened, order's canceled, try again or try another day, something like this. That wasn't happening. Right? So they weren't getting notifications of it being canceled. They weren't getting notifications that their money was going back to them.
Oh, wow.
Right? So they were thinking that they were paying money to get cookies that never got delivered. And I mean, it all worked out in the end, but there were some, that was a tough.
I was going to say, but
days.
Chip happens. That's
exactly.
It happens.
So that wasn't your mistake, but how did you fix it?
I mean, I think it's reaching out to those customers and making it right.
Yeah.
Right. So each of those customers that happened to, we reached out and said, hey, like, come by sometime. We'll give you a free box of cookies to try and earn your trust back. Because even though it wasn't our fault, right? Like that's the perception
to them
because
it's
our business, right? And so you have to own that, whether you were integral in that mistake or not. Like you have to make it right for your customers. And so that's what whenever we screw up, we try to do that, right?
And sometimes that actually can be a bigger win on the other side, right? And now you have an opportunity. And one of the things that we really focus on is creating raving fans with our business, where people are so happy with our service, with our product, whatever it is, that they go out and tell others. That's free marketing. Yeah. And so you do that by wowing and, to your point, even not just meeting those expectations, but exceeding them. And you guys have a great product. So
yeah, and it's the best marketing you can get, right?
Totally.
Because people are going to trust their friends, their coworkers, their family way more than they're going to trust
a social media
ad or anything else,
yeah.
right? So that kind of stuff can get you in the door and maybe get you to try something. But if you get a real referral and a real recommendation, you almost have a fan before they even walk in the door. And then when it's an interesting thing in the restaurant business in general, right? If you can get someone to visit you 3 times, they'll basically never stop coming back to you.
Good to know.
And so if you can get that kind of head start to getting them the first time and then maybe doing a promo to bring them back the second time, and then they like that experience, they come back the third time and then they're in it, and then they're way more likely to recommend it as well.
Totally. And I also think they're not just coming to buy a cookie, they are coming for an experience, and that service is another element of it, right? So your shop showing up and looking clean and being presentable and being warm and inviting is a component, but also how the associates that you have representing you, right? Are they smiling? Are they welcoming? That's another really important part because it's an experience. Yes. And if you walk in and your staff is grumpy and not smiling, then doesn't start it off very well, right? But on the flip side, my daughter works at a place, I don't know if I should say it, but anyways, and then she gets tips, and I always tell her, like, you earn your tips by how you treat them. So be super welcoming, smiling, engaging, have conversation with them, right? That's going to bump you up and make it a better experience for them. I hate when I go somewhere and I'm greeted by like a grumpy person.
Yep.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because it's not just a cookie. Like the way I think of it is when I was a kid, we would go get ice cream together as a family. It was a family thing. And it was so fun, not just the ice cream, but that time together with the family. And so that's what they're doing in most cases.
Yeah, it's a nostalgia piece too, right? Yeah. And so most of, like when we hire someone new and we bring them in for training, most of the training that we do is around the first like 2 minutes that a customer comes
Yeah.
in, right? Make sure you welcome them, make sure, to your point, that you're happy, right? And smiling and engaged with them. Make sure you explain the cookies and the concept to the customer really well, right? So they understand what they're getting and what they have the opportunity to do in our shop.
Can all of your employees in 30 seconds give your value proposition? Can they explain? Because if I walked in and I'd seen all these other cookies and this is the first time coming into Chip, I'll be like, hey, so 17-year-old behind the counter, what makes this better than all the other ones? Could they say that?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's our first pitch in the door, right? Okay. You walk in the door, we welcome you to Chip, and then we're right at the cookies telling you about the cookies.
Sweet.
Right? What they are, what's in them, what you can do with the cookie bar, right? And then everything else is just,
That's awesome.
What's your hiring process look like? Is it pretty rigorous? How do you find good people?
So when we first started, it was all through like a third party hiring application website kind of a thing, right? And so we took them through, it's not an earth-shatteringly difficult job, so it's not incredibly rigorous, but we had them they had an interview with myself, they had an interview with my wife, and then we kind of came together and
have you gotten good at it?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I've done a lot of interviewing and hiring from my day job, right? Cool. And so that skill set kind of transferred
for sure
pretty easily, right? It's a different skill set that we're looking for, but it's
customer service.
Yep, exactly. Right. It's really all about we can teach you the stuff that's learnable, right? We can't teach you
the attitude,
the intangibles,
the things that you either have or you don't have, right? Can you just talk to someone?
Are you nice?
Right? Are you a pleasant
You care
person?
about people.
Yep.
You care about your work.
So that's the stuff we look at more, right? Do you have that integrity? Do you have that kind of charisma that you need to make people feel welcome? And we can teach you how to bake a cookie.
Totally.
It's not,
Well,
it's very specific way to do it because we have very specific recipes and things that we do, but it's not something that people can't learn. Right?
Totally.
Well, I tell my teenagers this, one works and one is about to start working. And it's amazing to me how easy it is to stand out today in a work environment. If you show up on time consistently, you're beating 50% of the crowd right there.
Oh, yeah.
If you care at all about your work product and the service you provide, you're in the top 10% almost instantly. Yeah.
Well, Brady, this has been so fun. I cannot wait to jump into these cookies. What didn't we ask you that we should have?
Oh, geez. I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I would just say that we'd love for anyone to come down, right?
Do you have a promo you want to share with our listeners?
So if you come down, if you want to mention the podcast, you can get 20% off any of our non-catering orders, which is what most people are going to do. And so we'd love to see everybody come out, spread the word.
I love it.
We really have some great cookies.
So mention the Real Deal podcast.
Yep.
You get a 20% discount.
Let's
do it.
That's awesome.
Well, we love to end with a speed round. Are you up for our speed round?
We'll do our best.
All right, let's go. Okay, favorite color?
Yellow.
Do you have a favorite drink? That's my favorite color too, by the way. Do you have a favorite drink? It is. It's a happy color.
I really like, this might be a weird answer, I don't know. I really like the Crystal Light drinks.
Oh
yeah.
So just give me like a cherry
refreshing
pomegranate, Crystal Light kind of a deal. And
that's unique.
I'm in on it.
All right. I normally ask favorite food, but I have to ask favorite cookie.
My favorite cookie is probably our Biscoff cookie.
Oh, yes.
I can tell by how you talked about it.
It's delicious.
All right. Do you have a favorite book?
I can tell you two books that really, really helped me. Can I do a business kind of workbook and then a personal?
Yes, let's do it because we love to read.
Workbooks, there's two of them. There's a book, and I forget the author, so you'll have to forgive me, but there's one that's called Work Makes Me Nervous.
Okay.
That I read when I kind of first got into the business world, that's all about managing any kind of anxiety that you have working with senior people, or you're going into a C-suite, right? Like understanding that, you belong and you're okay, and everyone is just as anxious as you are for the most part, right?
Love that.
So that was awesome. And the other one was written by an ex-FBI investigator that was all about, like, his job was getting people to turn.
Yes,
Oh.
I know what you're talking about. That
And
guy's
it's
a
called the
stud.
like switch.
Ooh.
That's all about the science behind getting people to like you and open up to you and want to interact with you.
The
Ooh,
light
I like
switch.
that.
Like
Like
switch.
Like
switch.
switch. I
Okay.
like that.
I'm
Okay.
checking that one out for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then on a personal side, anything written by, there's an author called Brandon Sanderson, who is awesome. And anything that's written by him
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
is great. He does a lot of sci-fi
Okay.
type stuff.
Okay.
It's
You
really
need a mix of both. Personally,
Yeah.
I need a mix of both, right? I can't just all business all the time. Okay, do you have a favorite podcast?
Let's see. I do a lot of tech podcasts and I do a lot of sports podcasts. I'm a big sports guy.
Okay.
Right now, I would probably say there's a podcast on The Ringer that's a basketball podcast called The Mismatch
Okay.
that is probably my favorite right
Okay.
now.
Who's your
It's really
team?
good.
Who's your team?
So in basketball, it's Oklahoma City.
Okay.
So for forever, when I was a little kid, I was a Sonics fan. I loved the Seattle Sonics, and they moved to Oklahoma City.
Little Sean Kemp action.
Yep, exactly. Gary Payton, the whole
Yeah,
deal. It was,
yeah.
Yep, I was all about the Sonics. And then football, I'm a huge 49ers.
Nice.
fan.
Okay.
So
Nice.
hopefully we can finally close the door and get a Super Bowl this year
I'm a
before we.
Chiefs fan, bro.
My husband would
sorry.
love that too. All right, last but not least, favorite vacation.
Favorite vacation is probably like the classic Disneyland kind of a deal with the kids
With
and
the
with
kids.
their family. If I haven't done this vacation, but I will tell you the vacation that one day we will do that's going
Okay.
to be awesome is just hitting spots across Europe, right?
Oh.
Like starting in London, going through Paris down to Italy.
Yeah.
That would be one day. That's like a bucket list. We're going to
love
do that
it.
at some point.
Do you have a favorite smell?
Favorite smell?
Is it the bakery?
fresh baked cookies?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And if you're listening, go get your chip cookies and mention the podcast to save yourself 20%. Thank you so much, Brady. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the Home Selling Team on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay up to date with our podcast.